FBC Firebreak's launch has been terrible. On paper, the game sounds amazing, right? It's a co-op shooter from Remedy. Remedy, hello, Alan Wake 2, Control, fantastic games. In practice, the game hasn't opened up to the best kind of reception. It's launched to mostly negative reviews. It's sitting at mixed now, which is better than mostly negative. Still not great. And it's kind of gotten to the point where even the communications director of Remedy Entertainment's like, listen, support for this game beyond 2025 will depend on how well the game can support a player base in the coming months, and then of course going into 2026. And it's kind of like the first reception, or like the first impression of a video game, is very important. If the first impression is poor and negative, the chances of that video game like staying alive go down significantly. I would probably say even exponentially, maybe not, but it goes down by quite a bit. So I say this because I'm actually having a lot of fun with the game, which doesn't quite fit with the narrative that's kind of been going around about the game. When you get past that initial stage, like stage 1 for all of the maps, and you get introduced to stages 2 and 3, and then you get introduced to the corruption mechanic on each map, which also has its own subset of levels. And then you also take into consideration like the progression system, which is not small, it's quite large. There's a lot of things that you can upgrade. Upgrade your guns, you can get different guns. You can also upgrade a lot of the different base mechanics in the game, like sprinting, health recovery, how much you get healed by certain items, etc., etc. There's a lot to the game. The game is actually quite deep. It's just unfortunate that the game was opened to such negative reception. I understand why though, and it's not like the negative reception is completely baseless. It's, in fact, most of it is not baseless. The first issue that sort of comes to mind is that you're paying $40 for the game, and you're thinking, you know, $40 for a game like this where you get introduced to stage 1 of map 1, it's something that you can finish in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops, right? And you're just like, I just spent $40 for this fucking like bullshit. I don't know if I want to spend $40 for something like this. And then you look at other games that cost less, right, than $40, or maybe are at that $40 price point. How much is Clair Obscur? Clair Obscur is okay. So Clair Obscur is not $40, but for an extra $10, you get to play a contender for Game of the Year. I think that's a pretty good deal right there. For maybe less than $40, you can play games like Pal World, you can play games like Enshrouded. There are a slew of other games that seemingly might be worth people's time and money for the same price. If you have other games that you enjoy playing at that price point, put it on the comments below and tell me why. Tell me why it's a good deal for $40. But another issue that I have with FBC Firebreak, and also I think other people have with the game, is that the game is set in Remedy's Connected Universe, or the RCU for short. And that universe's precedent was set by Control, the game, and Alan Wake 2. When you set the precedent for a universe with a game like Control, you're setting the precedent that, one, you're getting cool telekinetic powers, not dissimilar to like the Force from Star Wars. You're getting the Force 2, the Force the sequel, right? You're getting the ability to throw shit around. You're getting the ability to like have like an Omega telekinetic blast that can destroy people, right? It's super fun Control. You can fly around and shit. It's awesome, right? And then you get thrown into a game like FBC Firebreak that's set in the same universe, and you're like, what happened to all the telekinetic powers? Why do I only get like a fucking pea shooter? Why do I only get like a 6-shooter revolver? Like a 6-bullet revolver? Like, what the fuck? What happened to my Force abilities, right? A big part of what made Control special is that telekinetic, you know, like that crazy gameplay of like flying around, throwing shit around, taking your enemies and mind controlling them. That's super fun. And when you strip that out of a game that takes place in the same universe, it just feels like a massive step down for the most part. Another thing that I've sort of thought about is that FBC Firebreak has very similar DNA in terms of replayability to Space Marines 2, Warhammer Space Marine 2, and Helldivers 2. A question there would be like, well, if it has the same DNA as those two games, why doesn't it have the same positive reception as those two games? Two things. for both games, Helldivers 2 and Space Marine 2. Helldivers 2, it introduced something novel in that it's there's like quite literally a game master who's like puppeteering shit and making the world, you know, updating the universe that Helldivers takes place in, and they're moving shit around, adding an enemy here, putting an enemy there, and like making all these different things happen in an organic and like lifelike kind of way that's really cool and novel, and it's fun. Is the big part, is that it's fun. And when they introduce the game to you, right, when they onboard the game to new players, they get that sense. And when they get that sense, they understand that, oh shit, this is bigger than I thought it would be. For Space Marine 2, it's a bit different, kind of the same in the sense that obviously you're getting more than just, you know, the co-op aspect of Space Marine 2. You're getting a full-fledged campaign, you're getting PvP, you're getting like a ton of maps from the get-go. While the DNA is kind of shared between Space Marine 2 and Firebreak and how replayable those maps are, with Space Marine 2, the way those maps play out is kind of they're kind of like little missions that are a part of a bigger campaign. And that in and of itself, like putting that into the context of the Space Marine 2 world is really cool, and it's fun, and there's a logic, there's like a line of logic to follow. With Firebreak, it's just kind of like, here's a sandbox within the Control universe, which in theory sounds really fun, but in practice, clearly, it's not what people make it out to be. And again, I think a big part of that is the onboarding issue that FBC Firebreak has. It just doesn't give that information to the player. It doesn't give the information that there's more to the game to the player immediately. And that's something that needs to be given so that the player understands, like, why the fuck did I shell out $40 for this? Going to that issue of onboarding, I can't stress enough how like much deeper the game is than it is after stage 1 of map 1, right? Like, truly the onboarding experience of the game explains nothing to you. It doesn't explain to you why the game costs $40. And I think that's like the biggest thing, is that a game like, just as an example, like Clair Obscur, you spend the $50, you get into the game, you understand immediately where a lot of the money went, right? The game is gorgeous, the voice acting is amazing, there is a story that hooks you in immediately, and then the gameplay system is also really fun. So you understand where that money went, and not only do you understand where it went, but you can feel that the game is just fun. And that's important, right? When you spend money on a game, you want it to be fun, you want it to be worth your time. And when the game onboards you to nothing, it's gonna feel like that money you spent, like, it just fell into a void. Like someone literally walked up to you, stuck their hand into your pocket, and they're like, give me your shit, I'm running away. And you're like, all right, sounds good. And so they run away, and you look into your pocket, you realize it's empty. A bunch of realizations happen to you, and you're like, oh, maybe it wasn't that good. Weird metaphor to use, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, it just feels like you've been scammed, and it's unfortunate that it feels that way, because a game that onboards you to what feels like nothing, that's not worth $40. That doesn't feel like it's worth $40, not at all, dude. You know, I say all this, but I also want to point out that I really still enjoy the damn game. From the perspective of someone who loves Remedy Entertainment, I just like being back in the universe. There's nothing quite like the vibe that The Oldest House, which is where the game takes place in. There's nothing quite like that vibe. I can't really explain it. I can't really put it into words. The vibes are immaculate, frankly. And I just think that the art direction is great. I think the gunplay is good. It's punchy. There's a lot of progression to each of the guns and each of the perks, and it gets deeper, right? The more time you invest into the game, the more you realize, oh, I can upgrade this part, I can upgrade my gun even more beyond what it currently it's at, and then I can also add augments to my guns. I can add an augment so that I can literally fire gnomes that call forth lightning storms. You're firing miniature Thors at enemies. You can also attach a teapot to one of your guns that turns it from what is like a super soaker into a fucking flamethrower. That's insane. You can also like attach an augment to your wrench that turns it into something that throws piggy banks at enemies and makes it rain coins that hits other enemies and damages them. It gets really deep, it gets really fun, it gets really wacky, it gets really cool. I'm enjoying it. I think it gets deeper than what most people might have initially perceived it as. When you get into a game with players who know what they're doing and you got a good set of teammates who are like, who know what to do, there's a real sense of urgency to the gameplay. Like you gotta help each other out. You gotta make sure you don't get like bombarded by a bunch of enemies. You gotta make sure that shit doesn't close in on you when there is like an effect like that on the map. And it, like, to me, it's fun. I'm having fun with it. And it does go deeper than that surface level early access demo kind of like stage 1 map 1 type feel. And that's kind of where you get to see FBC Firebreak begin to sort of shine, and I really do like it. And this brings me kind of like to the point where I really do want this game to succeed. And it definitely can. It has a good set of bones, it has a good skeleton to it, but Remedy needs to fucking fix their shit immediately. The first thing is onboarding. You can't just introduce a player to nothing. Like, even if you spend $0 on a game, what the fuck? Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna introduce your players to nothing after shelling out $40 for your game? Let alone $40, dude. It's crazy. I can't get over that. It's kind of insane. They need to communicate to their players that there is more to Firebreak than just map 1, stage 1. They need to communicate to their players that it goes beyond that. It goes to stage 2, it goes to the 3rd stage, it goes to corruption levels, it goes to perk progressions, it goes to weapon progressions, it goes to augment progressions. There's a lot of customization and upgradability to the game that's really enjoyable. Another thing that I don't understand is there's no voice chat or text chat. At least let there be text chat if no voice chat. But it's crazy that there's no voice chat in a co-op game. I don't know. That one is a fucking... It's not confusing. It's just like, I don't know how that went past them. It is confusing in the sense that I don't know how they completely missed that. You gotta put fucking voice chat. You gotta put comms in a game like this. You gotta. You just can't miss out on that shit. Another thing is that I said that there is a lot of progression to the game. There might be a little bit too much initial progression. I think the early game needs to be reworked. I think they need to fix that early game grind so that it's less grindy. So that, again, they can communicate. This is a way to communicate to the player that there is just more than stage 1, map 1. By reworking the early game grind, by giving access to better, more fun weapons, that communicates to the player there's more. That needs to be done as soon as possible. In addition to the onboarding stuff, and of course adding comms. Adding comms, I can't get over it. That shit is beyond me. All right. Another thing, goodwill. Dropping the game's price down to something reasonable. You know, $20, $25. Give it a good price cut that makes it more appealing for what the player gets. I mean, by doing this, obviously, I don't understand. Okay, I want to preface this by saying I don't understand, like, the development costs. I don't know what went into it, and I don't know why $40 became the price for the game. But by dropping the price down, it's like Remedy telling the player base that, hey, look, we're fucking listening, and we're sorry. So here's a price cut. That would just be so amazing and so kind. I think it would just do both the game, Remedy, and the player base. Look at that, 3 fucking things. It would just do them so much good. It would just do them, like, so much good. And on that note, I just want to say, don't write off FBC Firebreak. I don't think it's dead on arrival. They have clearly manufactured the game so that it's, you know, it gets better over time. How much better it gets over time going into 2026, we'll see. It's not dead on arrival, but it is in a dire state. I think it's a fun game, and I think it can get better. Beyond that initial onboarding experience that the new player has, there is a fun co-op shooter that has deeper systems. When it's trapped behind the experience of onboarding a new player to nothing, it's very difficult to communicate to the player that we have a deep game. We have a game that's clever, that's genuinely fun, and it's quirky. It's fun. It's like, I like the little dialogue that happens between the player and, you know, like the manager that talks to you. I think it's fun. And of course, that $40 price tag is another hurdle to get over. If you, as a consumer, as a player, I don't think it's something that should be mandatory to get over. But that also brings me to my other point. If you have Game Pass, if you have PlayStation Plus, I would recommend getting one of those subscriptions and then just trying it out there and getting most out of your $20 spent there, or however much Game Pass or PlayStation Plus costs these days. Get to the higher clearance levels, get to the higher stages of all the different maps, and you'll understand that, like, it gets really fun. It gets deeper, it gets more progressive, it gets more chaotic, it gets more urgent. And that's, I think it's just, there's a good game there, and I just can't get over the fact that they've really sort of botched it with that terrible onboarding experience for new players. I keep on repeating it, but again, I just can't get over how bad it is. It's just awful. Anyway, I hope Remedy gives it a chance, frankly. I really hope they do. Anyway, that's gonna be that for the video. If you guys liked it, please feel free to like the video, subscribe. Let me know what you think of FBC Firebreak. Let me know if you enjoy it. Let me know if you want to see more content on FBC Firebreak. If you want to see more content like this, let me know in the comments. Let me know if there are some other games you want me to talk about too. I like talking. I like yapping. So let me know. Yeah.